on to our next speaker. I absolutely love this speaker. This person is a dear person to my heart. So I'm going to be introducing to you the lovely dietitian Enoabasi, NTA RDN, known as the Kiddies Dietitian, is a leading voice in pediatric nutrition in Nigeria, dedicated to combating malnutrition and promoting healthy eating habits among children and families, with a strong focus on culturally relevant and accessible nutrition solutions. Dietitian Eno is passionate about reducing the consumption of ultra-processed foods and empowering parents to raise a healthy generation. She's also actively engaged in public health initiatives and aspires to influence nutrition policy at a national level. I love everything that I've just read about Dr. Ena, but you see that last statement, I'm holding a truth to it because we need more people that are going to fight for us, not just on the grassroots level, but on the policy level. Hi, Doctor. I said Dr. Ena. Hi, Dietitian Ena. How are you?
Hi, good evening, good evening, good evening. Don't worry, by God willing, let me get my act together by next year. We shall
We are
upgrade
behind
our
you. We're
title.
behind you. All right. So,
Good evening,
um,
everybody.
yes, I'm going to leave the floor to you. Please take over.
All right, thank you so much. I don't know, every single time somebody has to read my bio, I always feel very shy because I'm like, look at small me. Where did I start from and where have I gotten to? But thank you so much to yourself and the team for, inviting me along. I know that I've been relatively quiet this year. Is life. Thank you so much again to everybody who has showed up because I posted about it. It is not easy to take time out of your busy schedules to be here. So let us get into it. Today I'm pretty much just here to talk about something that is relatively passionate to me, children, nutrition, and the topic I was assigned is nutrition support for children with developmental and digestive concerns. So if any of the parents here at any point have had to have any concerns about their children, whether it's about their development, their digestive issues, whether you're looking at constipation, picky eating, frequent stomach pain, anything at all related to your child, please leave. Is it a reaction? I don't know how Zoom works. A reaction, a comment, or something, because there are a lot of data, or there is a lot of data, and there is a lot of statistics around this particular topic. So I want to sort of conduct my own mini assessment to see whether that data actually translates to this group, this cohort. And for the few that I have already seen giving notifications or is it having notifications, just know that you're not alone. And it is something that is much more common than we think. And all I want to say today, that is really let's say, a point of contact is that the brain and the stomach, that is the gut, they are very connected, more connected than we think. Because a lot of times, what enters our mouth and into our stomach, especially for children, we only always see it as, oh, we want our children to look robust, we want our children to look fresh, we want our children to grow, full stop. But we do not understand that when your child has an unhealthy gut, it has adverse effects in their brain, in their development. And when we support their gut and their stomachs properly, you see improvements, not just in like digestion, but you also see improvements in their behavior, in their mood, their sleep, attention, their overall output when it comes to how they behave, as well as their development. And so today we will be looking at, a little bit about what the science says, what it looks like for our Nigerian families, like in Nigerian setups, and we also will be looking at some practical food strategies. When to seek help, that will also mean that we should be able to identify certain things and what real support would look like. Inside our stomachs, as well as our children's stomachs, we have tiny little things, live trillions of bacteria. And we typically will call that like the microbiome. And this microbiome plays a very important role when it comes to immunity, nutrient absorption, brain development, behavioral regulation. And a lot of parents don't seem to understand or know that 90% or more than 90% of serotonin, which is the chemical that helps us to feel good, is produced in the gut. And if your child is constantly having constipation or having inflammation or having repeated cycles of unprescribed antibiotics because a lot of people like to abuse them and is on a diet that is filled with ultra processed food or little to no fiber, high saturated fat diet, it will directly translate to shifts in their mood. It also will translate to poor and improper sleep. Your child will be irritable, they will lack focus, start to have sensory sensitivity, and the list goes on and on and on. So now, how many of you at any point, even in your personal selves, aside from your children, have noticed that whenever you have constipation or whenever your child has constipation, mood drastically changes? If you're unable to have proper bowel movements, you notice that for the rest of that day, you are just on edge. There is nothing nobody wants to say to you that will really enter. Anything that you typically would overlook, all of a sudden you become extra sensitive to. And this is you as an adult that has learned coping skills and you have regulatory, the ability to regulate your emotions to a large extent. So imagine for your child who is still trying to figure out emotional balance. If they are constipated, it will translate to irritability. So that is exactly how you have that link between the gut and the brain. It's called the gut brain axis, which is pretty much like a communication between the digestive tract and the brain. When the stomach and the gut is inflamed, the brain is filled because there's going to be an increase in stress and digestion will change. It is not just hearsay, it is what it is. In Nigeria, we have some common digestive issues, and most of these things are things that you typically will see, and we see that a lot of us speak about it. These are things that can also be corrected from a nutritional standpoint, and some of them include constipation that is chronic. So you're looking at constipation that has been lasting for quite a while that we always talk up to is that, oh, my child does not used to poo. It's normal. It's not normal. The other one is when your child is pooing hard stools and is pooing that hard stool every 3 to 5 days, and they're having painful bowel movement, having reflux, where it's like, oh, my child is always having hard stool. When it is not just days that they are eating, it is almost round the clock. When there is excess gas, bloated, especially when you're using frequent antibiotics for infections.
You're on mute. We can't
I
hear
can't
you.
hear you. Sorry
Okay.
about that. I was saying that constipation alone, constipation, the inability to pass food normally, affects 30% of children globally. So that is 1 in 3 children suffer from constipation. And we look at how underreported that statistic is, especially when you feel like, oh, the child just does not like to use the toilet. It's not that your child doesn't like to use the toilet, it is that they are unable to because of had to the thought or the experience of discomfort and pain while passing their spoon. Now, when we look at it, how many parents or how many of you think that your child is a picky eater? But you also notice that this child that is a picky eater also has troubles when it comes to using the toilet. Most times these things go hand in hand. It's not that your child is a picky eater. You can see that you find some children who are genuinely picky eaters and still have regular frequent bowel movements. Whereas you have the ones who are picky eaters but will still have troubles when it comes to passing, like going to the toilet. Those two things normally go hand in hand because you're looking at situations of when there is little to no fiber in their diet, when the child is not hydrating properly on actual water and not on juices and concentrates, where there is a lack of diversity in terms of the food that they are eating, where they are consistently eating ultra processed, ready to eat, fast cooked meals, high processed snacks that they take to school every single day and are eating as filler meals in between actual home cooked meals, as well as high refined fats. All of these things are patterns. They are not just symptoms, they contribute to the bigger picture. These are some of the digestive issues. Now, when we now go back based on this topic to looking at developmental concerns, you know that some developmental concerns based on our children's keeping milestones are when we talk about speech delay, hyperactivity, poor concentration, autism spectrum behavior, sensory sensitivity, and your child just having like frequent meltdowns or tantrums, or you say, ah, this child is just misbehaving, this one just wants to show me pepper today. Nutrition does not cure developmental conditions, but it can influence certain things like their brain performance, emotional regulation, sleep quality. And a child's brain is fast developing. They have very high nutritional needs, especially when it comes to micronutrients and good quality of macronutrients. And nutrition is influencing their brain performance, their emotional regulation, their sleep quality, their learning capacity. And some of those nutrients you're thinking of are iron, zinc, omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, protein. And these things are nutrients that can affect their attention span, their intelligence quotient, their ability to learn, as well as energy level. When you have been doing your routine checks or going for your routine immunizations and you have done any tests, has any of you ever experienced any sort of darkness where they tell you that, oh, your child has low eyes? Or when you go to see the pediatrician and they say, ah, your child is always tired, your child has attention issues and what. And they tell you, oh, this child is low in iron. Or sometimes they'll tell you from pharmacies, depending on where you go to. Because I've had experience with some parents who say, I've gone to the pharmacy and the pharmacist recommended that I should start drinking this blood tonic. That's because my child's blood is not plenty. So you're able to now identify from things like that that the food that your child eats is not just about feeding their stomach. It has an or has a greater impact in their overall health. And in this case, it feeds their brain. There are some signs that you as a parent you should never ignore. And some of these include if your child is unable to pass through less than 3 times a week. So if Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, your child is only pooing 3 times or 3 days, in those days, once a day in a whole week, you know that there's a problem. If there is blood in their stool, you know there's a problem. If they're having persistent abdominal pain or their stomach each time you try to palpate feels very, very sick and hot, you know that there's a problem. If your child is having a severe food restriction and refuses to eat less than 10 foods in total, you know that you should be more attentive. If your child is not gaining weight according to what that child should be gaining and being classified by their peers, you know that there is a problem. And if your child is regressing developmentally, you know that there is a problem. You do not wait to see what the outcome will be. The moment you identify it, like the previous speaker has said, where once you notice certain things that are red flags, you do not allow time to pass because the early time or the earlier you catch it and the faster you get assistance, the easier it is to get it resolved and for you to have actual progress than for you to wait for it to progress. Because most times, at least like what I like to tell to my clients and to my students, is that when you start to have clinical manifestations, you know that something has advanced to a point. You do not want it to advance beyond what you have noticed. You need to act fast. If any of these symptoms apply to any of your children, I'm encouraging and I'm pleading and I'm motivating you that is you need to go and speak to your physician, you get a consultation because that early assessment is very powerful and it is very vital. In Nigeria, we have a lot of variety and a lot of delicious homegrown, naturally occurring foods that actually support our children's gut health. And we do not need to break the bank, especially when you have a large household, even if it is one child. Foreign solutions or foreign imports are not necessarily the solution to supporting gut health. Nigerian foods like quaker oats or rather oatmeal, you have beans, you have moi moi, you have ugu, we have okra, garden eggs, sweet potatoes, and my favorite set of probiotics, anything that we ferment. So our pap, our fufu, our kunu. These are great sources or great things for our children's growth. We also have tiger nuts, groundnuts, okada rice. We have prebiotics, we have probiotics. We have these things that, you know, promote good gut health and the things that feed the things that promote good gut health. And Nigerian diet as it is, as long as you're doing things in moderation. So because beans is good, it does not mean that you will now process the beans to only be in form of akara, which requires, a certain amount of rice. And you say, oh, I'm giving my child beans. Beans is healthy. How you present it or how you prepare it to give to your child also matters. If you're giving your child pap and saying, my pap is probiotic and my child is going to be giving pap, wonderful. But in that pap, you will not now go and pack 5 to 6 cubes of sugar because your child doesn't like things that are slightly tangy or slightly sour. Say, oh, so that it will be sweet. You cannot contradict something good with other things that will negate the effect of the beneficial things that are supposed to be in the food that you're providing for the child. Fermented foods in general introduce beneficial bacteria to your children's gut, and healthy fats support brain development. Fiber is also a great, will I say, a great thing to have in our children's diet. So when you're looking at fiber from vegetables, you're looking at fiber from your fruits, you're looking at fiber from certain tubers. These are things that you should actively include into your diet. With the basic things that I have mentioned now, I can itemize at least 20, 30 different meals that can be prepared with the same set of ingredients. You know that cooking is sort of like an experimental avenue where you are able to, in quotes, like someone would say, concoct a lot of things in the kitchen. It's like you are just playing around, but you are able to create many diverse meals. Because you have ugu and water leaf and green, doesn't always mean that it must be in soup or sauce. You can saute them, you can have a stir fry, you can blanch them and serve them on the side. The possibilities are endless. Stop limiting yourself when it comes to food and how you present it for your children. So now, let us report ourselves. How many of us here actively serve our children at least 3 portions of vegetables on a daily? And this is across breakfast, lunch, dinner, or snack. Intentionally serves our children 3 full portions of vegetables in every single meal that they're having. Let me see inside the chat. Who. I have been doing that. So when you look at things like that, you try for Susha. You're trying. You're trying. So if you're looking at all of these things and seeing
I
whether or
think
not
if you can increase your
we,
volume a little bit.
yo, I will try
I
my best.
know.
I am not a loudspeaker. That means I'll be shouting. But no problem. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That is my loud. I mean, I need to motivate myself more. But we as parents actively contribute to our children's overall health. I like to say that parenthood is sort of like a transitional phase. We love our children. There is no way we want to do harm to our children. And you being here on this webinar also shows your own commitment to learning more and getting better information to improve your child's health outcome. We should look at it as from 6 months up until a certain amount of like a certain age, you are completely responsible for how this child will eventually live in their adult years. The foundations that you put down now from that 6 months when you start your complementary feeding and when you start to wean the child off of, you know, breast milk and you're giving the child a or building their relationship with food determines how they are going to be when they become adults and what their health outcomes are. Nutrition plays a very vital role. It is one of the foundations, one of the building blocks to overall health. If you are struggling to get your child to eat vegetables, there are 1,000 resources, and I know nutrition for kids has resources that you can easily access. So you think of How can you introduce healthful foods that support overall health, are beneficial to the gut, and will in turn help improve the gut-brain axis and their connection to look at better development and better health outcomes. Let's now talk about some classical meal structures. There are various formulas in which you can mix and match to sort of have, you know, adequate diet, also known as what the layman would say, like a balanced diet or a balanced plate. I like to use some that you say protein, fiber, healthy fats, and hydration. That is a formula you can use, especially when you're thinking of like school lunches or dinners, because I know that breakfast might not necessarily be very possible, given the fact that the days typically have a very rough and rocky start, especially when you do not have living assistance. And when you need to get your children out of the house in the morning, when you're also thinking about you needing to get to work. So when you look at protein, you see proteins can be from plants, it can be from animals. Is it eggs you want to do? Is it fish? Is it beef? You know that whatever they are taking to school must have a good source of protein. You also think of fiber. What can I make that has fiber inside? Am I going to make beans? Am I going to do sweet potatoes? Am I going to do rice and then add vegetables? Type of rice. Am I doing ofada rice? Am I doing brown rice? There are so many ways you can think of. Okay, if I want to do plain white rice or if I want to do plain basmati rice, my fiber source would then be shredded or chopped or diced, whatever, carrots, cabbage, ugu, greens, therefore. It does not have to be anything fancy. Your healthy fat option typically would be something you either use to cook the meal itself or something you add on. And your fats can come from like nuts, your groundnuts, your cashew nuts, can come from avocado. And then finally for hydration. Nigeria is very hot right now. I don't know about you. If you do not have the luxury of going from AC car to AC house to AC school, you will experience, you know that the country has gotten so hot that we are sweating round the clock, even at night. So you want to ensure that you are replenishing all the fluids that your child has lost during the day, and you're thinking of how is my child staying hydrated? Is it hydration from fruits that have high water content, like watermelon, oranges, apples, or am I giving my child a plain bottle of water to drink? Hydration is not supposed to be looked at from a juice box or a juice concentrate standpoint, because that is not just hydration. You're adding other things that are not necessarily useful or beneficial to your child's health at that point. You can get this formula spread across their breakfast, their lunch, their snacks, or their dinner. Tonight, let us start by practicalizing and look at our children's plate. What time is it? 7:46. I know that some people will not give their children dinner till the next 1 hour or in the next 30 minutes. So starting from now, you start looking inside your child's plate and saying, am I truly giving this child all the things that they require? Have I done the proper equation? Am I giving them the, will I say, the building blocks that are setting them up for a better tomorrow? When dealing with children who have selective eating and sensory issues, which can be a developmental problem, you can think of things like if your child says, oh, they only will eat foods that are white in color, or they only want foods that are dry, or they do not want when their yam is touching the sauce, or whatever it is that their preference is. Know that it can be sensory and not necessarily your child being stubborn or um being too much. You try to not force the child, don't shame them. Don't say, but see your sister is doing this, or your brother is doing this. Why are you not? Put the food the way they want it to be, as long as you are meeting their nutritional needs. Remember that you need to seek help. It is okay and it is fine to seek help when you find that certain things have gone beyond your capacity to handle. If your child is having chronic constipation and you have tried everything, the orange in warm water, you have tried to, I don't know the English name for it, is it ukebe? You have tried giving them castor oil. You've tried giving them certain types of traditional foods that are known to have laxative effects, and it is still not working. It does not mean that you have failed. It just means that there is something that you probably are not paying attention to. And so you need to seek professional help. Developmental delays exist. We cannot, God forbid, ourselves out of it if it happens. You need to seek proper assistance to learn how to either manage it or to help your child overcome it, depending on what it is. You do not have to figure it out alone. And there are structured ways for us to access diets that actively help our children's gut and brain health. And we can build our gradual meal plans as well as help to improve our children's overall gut health. If you are feeling, would I say, spoken to, I encourage you to learn more about nutrition, especially child nutrition. And we have a lot of resources and powerhouses on this webinar. The hosts of the webinar themselves are people that you can actively meet to help intervene, because structured intervention helps us to prevent having bigger challenges, especially as these children grow. Um, in conclusion, I see that it's already 7:49. Your child's body is not broken, especially if your child is already having what do you call it, any developmental or digestive health challenges. It's not that your child is damaged or broken. It is your child's body communicating a problem, something that is going on that needs to be fixed. Digestive symptoms are signals. Their behavioral changes are signals. Those tantrums, the lack of attention, the drowsiness, the fatigue, all of these are signals that are telling you that there is a bigger picture that you are just not paying attention to. And you need to start listening, nourish wisely, monitor or track either progress or regression, seek professional help where you are able to, and be consistent. You can start small and you can start from tonight with the dinner that you're going to provide for your children and your families. And build on that gradually, and eventually things tend to work out for a better path. So I will be closing there, and I'm open to questions if there are any. If not, that means I am doing a wonderful job and I have simplified this to the best of my ability.
No
So thank you
question.
so much for listening. No
You want to
questions.
run?
Wonderful. Wonderful. That I want to run. I
Thank you
don't want
so,
to. How can
so,
I run and leave
so
you?
much. Thank you so, so much. I think you've highlighted one of the major, highly commonly overlooked issues that a lot of children are facing today. And I think there's also the fact that we don't take constipation seriously until it becomes a big problem. And at that point, it is
Mhm.
now causing more damage. So I've got a couple questions for you, actually. This one was actually asked in Dr. Rena's session, but I skipped it because I think it is a question that you need to be able to answer. So
Okay.
give me 1 second. Let me scroll, scroll, scroll. I find this question. Eh? Where is this question? Oh my God.
Hey, my brain should rise. I will not shame my enemy.
So the
But
question,
yes.
my toddler went from being constipated to slight diarrhea. It has stopped now, but I was confused as to the cause.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I remember Dr. Rena saying or asking questions regarding the people around that are typically in the household and the habits that they do. You know, hand washing, plate washing, cup washing, food handling, storage, processing. All of these things play a vital role. Constipation, most times when you look at it, is not always that deep. It is very easy. Sometimes a child can be constipated for something as little as they decided they wanted to put their hand inside the container of Milo and lick it from beginning to end
Mommy
and
carry
did not
me.
hydrate. They didn't hydrate properly after and they ended up having constipation. Or the child was eating a lot of bread, crackers, things and not hydrating. Or a lack of fiber in their diet. These things play a role. And fun fact, There is the constipation that happens when there is a lot of fiber, but not enough hydration to sort of balance it out to allow these things to pass through the gut and get expelled from the body. You need to understand what the cause and the source of the constipation is first, which we say is that when you notice that your child is having constipation that does not seem to want to go, you seek professional help. If my any of the children in my house is saying, oh, they are unable to poo, and from unable to poo, they now start feeling immediately after, and it's now diarrhea. The first things that I always look at are the food flask, that rim, that's what do you call it? The rubber that is under the cover, their water bottles, the mouth, especially the areas that you know that they are talking, all those hard to reach areas that if you have house help or you have somebody that is helping you out in the house and they are the ones who are washing the things for your children, these are places you need to consistently investigate. If they use stainless steel straws or plastic straws or any type of straws that are consistently used, those are areas you need to investigate. You check enough to prevent things from hiding under, especially when they handle food. When they are heating up the food that you have prepared for your children to take to school, did they heat it up until the thing became hot enough before they packed the food? All of these things, play a role and are oftentimes overlooked. The issue might not even be because there is something so drastic. It might be because of small, small things like that we typically don't really pay attention to because of we don't have the time to, and there are other things that are playing that play a role.
Thank you so, so much. I really like the fact that you mentioned about those rings around flasks because I feel like a lot of us, when we wash the flask, we see
Yeah.
it and they harbor a lot of germs, especially because we use a lot of oil to cook. So another question I have for you
Mm-hmm.
is, someone is asking if you can please recap what you said about remedies for constipation one. Then the follow-up question somebody asks is it okay to give a baby Gary water? If yes, what are the benefits? And then please increase your volume small
Depends on
again.
ew.
Please.
It's nice where I am, where I'm staying is very, very quiet. So I
I
cannot
like
be
this volume
shouting.
now. This volume now that you just did, just stay there.
All right, no problem. So, Gary water. Please define what you mean by child. Is it a child that is under 6 months? Is it a child that is under 1 year? Is it a child that is 2 years and above? The Gary water. What type of Gary water you mean? Is it that you are soaking processed Gary in water and you are then is it cooking that water, or it is the Gary that is still being processed, so it's in raw cassava form and it is actively fermenting? If Okay, let me take it from this angle. I know that wives still like old wives still and home remedy, Gary water, pap water, fufu water sef. We normally would drink it when we have like stomach pain or we are having some sort of ulcer or we are having it's a known remedy that works. But the thing I always say for things like that is number one, how was your cassava processed? Was it washed properly? Was it handled properly? Are you actively allowing proper fermentation to occur and not spoilage, where you're seeing like bacterial growth and you're seeing like those slimy like substances inside the water? Then you know that by all means, a child, even an adult, should not be drinking it. I have had the opportunity to sample the water that we use in fermenting pap when I was having like acid reflux when I was still doing my internship in the hospital. And it helped a lot. It helped with the acid, like the burning sensation. And I could only do that because I was certain of the source of water, the handling, and all of those things. But if you're saying that you want to give it to a child, if your child is under the age of 1, I'm not sure that is something that I would actively encourage because you know that these are children whose digestive like their and their immunity hasn't exactly been as beefed up as the older ones. So I would say for them, please err on the side of caution. Do not. Under 6 months, do not even attempt it, do not think of it, do not fathom that sort of thought. But aside from that, by all means, if your child agrees to even drink it in the first place, then no problem. But it does not mean that you will now be giving 1.5 liters of pap or Gary water because it is good, because it can then become too much. You can give just a little and assess and see the tolerance, whether or not there are any side effects, and if the child is willing to engage. Because in this house, we do not proceed and we do not, force children to take things that they necessarily do not have to take. The second question was around eggs, and I would say yes, please. Eggs are a great source, a very, 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 very wonderful source of protein, especially in the Nigerian context, because you know that now meat, fish, and the poultry sources of meat are not exactly very affordable anymore, especially when you know that we have to be very reliant on inconsistent electricity. So you're looking at poor storage. Eggs are wonderful. I think I have a video of it on my page where I talked about why parents should stop skipping out on giving their children eggs, because in one egg you're giving high quality protein. It has choline, vitamins, iron, and healthy fat. And all of these things are indicative for great memory, great brain development, brain cell development, as well as learning. And it is delicious, which is very important, and it helps keep them full and makes them feel fuller for longer. So, yes, please, you can give your children eggs, contrary to what a lot of people believe. And I know that there had been a lot of concern, because prior messaging used to say eggs and cholesterol, that if you're giving people eggs, that they are on route to have high blood pressure and cardiovascular issues and all of that. But thank God for consistent and modern day research that has debunked a lot of all of those things. And we now know that as long as you are balancing and giving an adequate plate, you are free to have a very full, nutritionally sound plate.
Thank you so, so much. We don't have time to take any more questions today. I feel like we're flying today. There are so many questions that came last minute when you were still talking. What I would advise everyone is we are going to share Eno's page. Please reach out to Eno. She's an amazing, amazing dietitian. She has done so much amazing work in the public health space, in the child nutrition space, and she has done a lot of research in Nigeria, which is not a very common thing. So please definitely check out her page. There are so many more questions. I don't know if Anna is still going to be here after now, but the question is still plenty. We have another speaker who might also,
I cannot guarantee.
who I'm sure is going to be able
I
to answer
can't
those
guarantee.
questions. But Anna, thank you so much for your time. We truly
You're
appreciate it.
welcome. Thank you so
Truly,
much for
yeah.
having me. I am sorry for my low
Your
audio.
small
Next time
voice.
I will be louder.
Thank
My
you.
dear,
Thank you
don't
so,
worry.
so
In my
much.
next life, I'll be a very loud person. Thank you so much and have a
Thank you
wonderful
so
night.
much. Thank you. We're so grateful. Thank you.